All right, and this is Miss Soto. In today's video, we are going to go over a bullseye diagram and how to create your own. I would practice creating this through this entire unit on your own, because once we hand you a paper or an assignment or a test or a quiz, if you decide to draw a bullseye diagram by yourself, you are allowed to use that on the test. So that would be the first step during this unit that I would remind you to do on your own, so you can have everything laid out for you in one area, and it'll help you on the assignment. So there will be copies of these in your room, as well as the one we're about to create if you like that one better. They're basically the same, but slightly different areas are going to be labeled differently. All right, so first we're going to start with our blank one, and we're going to create the bullseye diagram. So I always like to do my sun first. So just like that picture, this will be our sun. And then whenever I draw my sun, I like to put the earth. So I'm going to put a big E for earth, so we know this is earth. And then I like to fill in my moon phases. So I'm going to draw the circles for the moons, but we're not going to fill them in yet. We're just going to draw them, and then we're going to go and fill in each moon phase and have information about that. So after earth, I'm going to draw the 4 major moon phases. So between earth and the sun is always a new moon, which we'll fill that out in a second. And then the next major one is a first quarter, and then a full moon, and last quarter. So these are major moon phases because they're only 1%. So they only happen once every cycle, so for one night. Now the minor moon phases, which we're going to fill in between, they have a range of percentages. So we're going to fill one in right here, which will eventually be our waxing crescent, our waxing gibbous, waning gibbous, and waning crescent. And then we're going to go through each one. So I like to start with the very beginning of the cycle, which is a new moon. So I have a highlighter and a marker here. The part that is highlighted is going to be the actual moon phase, and then I'm going to take a dark marker and fill in the part that's not illuminated, because that visually helps me remember which side's supposed to be lit up and which side is not. So I'm going to start with our new moon, and as I mentioned, our new moon is always between the earth and the sun. So we're going to write new right here, and because it's new, it's a baby, it's just starting out, the cycle is just starting, there is 0% illumination. So I'm going to go ahead and take my black marker or my dark marker and shade in the entire thing. There is no moonlight on this night, none. So we're not going to see anything in the sky. Now it's important to mention that the cycle always goes in this order. So the new is going to be over here and the full is going to be over here. So this entire top part is going to be gaining light. So the moon's going to be gaining light. And that has a specific term for it. And we're going to go ahead and fill that in, because that's going to help us determine the names of them. So whenever the moon is gaining light, it goes this direction, and all of these are going to be considered waxing phases. So waxing just means, oh, there's the bell. I'm going to continue to go. Waxing just means gaining light, and it also means that the light is on the right. So light on right. All right, so all of these are gaining light. So we're gonna go ahead and fill those in. So after a new moon, we're gonna start gaining a little bit of light, and it's what the C shape looks like. So we call the C shape the crescent. So we're gonna go ahead and do our C shape. So it is waxing, which means the light's gonna be on the right. So I'm gonna take my dark marker, I'm gonna take my dark marker and fill in the left, because my illuminated part is going to be on this side. That is what I'm going to see in the sky. It's a little sliver. So anything up here is going to be called waxing. So this is our waxing crescent. And our waxing crescent is going to be anywhere from 1% illumination to 49% illumination. So it's not quite 0 because there's light, and it's not quite here, which is going to be 50%. So our waxing crescent, 1 to 49% illumination. Now we're going to go to our next phase, which is the 50%. It's waxing, so light is still on the right. So 50% is illuminated and 50% is in the dark. All right. So this is, you can call it a half moon, but you're going to see it as a first quarter. So we're going to go ahead and fill in first quarter. It's a first quarter moon, and it is 50% illuminated because half of it is lit up. And once again, it's on the right, so our lit up side is on the right. And then after our first quarter, we're gonna have more than 50% illuminated. So it's gonna go over here, and when it's anywhere between 49 and 50 or 199% illuminated, it is called gibbous. So our light still needs to be on the right. So we're gonna do, majority of it's gonna be filled in. So this is gonna be in darkness, and the right side is gonna be filled in. This is a gibbous. My shading's a little off, but it's okay. So it's on the waxing side. So this is a waxing gibbous. And the percent illuminated is greater than 50 because our 50 was the first quarter. So it's 51% to 99% illuminated. So this phase happens anywhere between these. All right, so now we're gonna switch it up, and we're gonna go to our major one that everybody knows about. The next step is our full moon. So it is 100% illuminated. That happens once in the cycle, and that's why it's major, because it has 1 percentage. So this is a full moon, and it's 100% lit up. This is the peak of all of the phases, because you cannot get any higher than 100%. So now we've hit from gaining light all the way through here, and now since it's peak, we have to lose light. So when we're losing light, it is called waning. And another way you can think of waning is like whining. The moon is whining because it's losing light. So we're gonna put waning. These are all of my waning phases. Waning, and then I'm gonna put, it's losing light. And this time it's the opposite, so the light is gonna be on the left. So you can even think losing is going on the left. So this next phase is going to be, we can't go back to a crescent. So we have to still be a gibbous because we're going full again. So it's still full. Now we're losing a little bit more, but it's going to be on the opposite side. So we still have a big chunk of the moon still eliminated, but it's not 100%. So after a full moon, it is called a waning gibbous because it's still a pretty big area. It's still 51 to 99% illuminated. However, it's going backwards because it's losing light. So it's going to be 99 to 51% illuminated because they're losing, and it's a waning. And then gibbous. All right, so after a waning gibbous, it goes back to being a half moon, and we call this the third quarter because the third quarter through the cycle. And it's a major one because there's only 1% associated with it, still 50. However, since it's losing light, the illumination is going to be on the left. So we're going to fill it in the opposite. So light's on left. I'm going to darken in the right side because that's the one we don't see. All right, and then we have one more phase, still a waning phase, because we're still losing light. We're going back to a new moon, which is 0% illumination. But we're going to match the top. It's now a crescent. So we're going to have a little sliver left before it becomes completely dark. And just like the top, crescents are only not below 50%, but we're going backwards, so it's going to be 49 to 1% illumination. Light is still on the left, so we're going to draw a little C shape for crescent. We're going to fill in that illumination, and then the darkness side. All right, so if you've noticed, the phases on this side are crescents and the phases on this side are gibbous. So you can actually write that down. So I'm going to take a blue marker, and this side, there are C shapes. So I'm going to put a C for crescent. These ones are big. You can think of it as a big G for gibbous, since that's what they start with. So capital G takes up more space than a C would if you put it in a circle. And then the last thing we have to note is how long it actually takes for the cycle to go through. So the entire cycle takes about 28 days. It's 27.5, but we're going to round it to 28. So a full month to go through the cycle. From each major moon phases, which is where I drew these lines pointing to them, and the ones with only 1% or one number associated with it, takes 7 days. So let me do that in green. So from a new moon to a first quarter is 7 days. A first quarter to a full moon is 7 days. Full moon to a third quarter is 7 days. And third quarter to a new moon is 7 days. And that's important to remember because we're going to ask you calendar dates. And just remember that each major moon phase is 7 days. So on day 1, it's going to be new moon. On day 7, or I guess 8, it's going to be a first quarter because there's 7 days in between. So 7 days, 7 days, 7 days, and 7 days. And this is where we get our 28-day cycle from, because there's 7 between each one. So if we ask you how many days are between a new moon and a full moon, you're going to add those two numbers up and you're going to get 14. If we ask you first quarter to a new moon, you're going to add up those 7 and you would get 28. Or no, sorry, 21. And then the last one would be 28. So if we ask you what phase is going to occur on day 4 of the cycle, you're going to know it's in between new and the first quarter, because days, 2 through 6 are going to be right there. So I would suggest memorizing this. This will help you a lot.